go ahead and start. Welcome again to this info session on scaling community tourism. Um, as I mentioned, my name is Likumbi Kapia, and I am manager of artisanal and natural products at Prospero Zambia. There are, of course, I said quite a few of you who we know already, but I won't assume that you know who or what Prospero does. So I'm going to take a few moments at the beginning of this session to just share more about Prospero. Oh, welcome from Livingston, Kitwe. Thank you. Good to see the spread that we have. So I'll begin just by sharing a bit of what Prospero does, who we are, and sort of why we do it and why we're having this session today. So just a moment. So we at Prospero Zambia have been around for quite some time. And we work in three major sectors that I'll touch, but today's session is on scaling community tourism. So we're an FCDO or UK funded Zambian company, and that's key to note that we're a company and not a project. We're currently in phase 2 of our work, which is ranging from 2020 to 2025. What we do is support MSME and investment growth. We do this through identification and facilitation of investment and innovation. So basically supporting businesses to scale through either technical assistance or co-investment grants. And we're really focused on private sector growth. That can be quite unusual in our Zambian context. You often hear of such programs working with NGOs, but we're uniquely focused on private sector growth, job creation, and poverty reduction. So as I mentioned, we work in three main pillars, or three main sectors, which is mining services, agriculture, focusing on small livestock and legumes and vegetables, and of course in tourism. And you may wonder, well, why do we work in tourism? And the main reason we work in tourism is because it's a key economic sector, poised for high growth in Zambia. We have a range of natural resources in Zambia that can be commercialized and provide inclusive growth and job creation. It's also a great opportunity for private sector to get involved all across the value chain of tourism. And it's got links to important issues like conservation and environmental protection, and as I mentioned, job creation and different land uses across the tourism sector. We use what we're calling a landscape perspective. So we look at not just traditional tourism, but what are the various ways that a landscape can be used, but while managing and being aware of the competing land uses. So they may be uses for agriculture in a particular area, or it could even be mining, but how can we support growth in that area through tourism in a way that takes into account all those different land uses? And how we do this mainly is through two initiatives. I'll go through it really quickly. It's landscape livelihoods and sustainable tourism. But I want to just draw your attention to that the topic of today's session under community enterprises is actually integrated in our Prospero's landscape livelihoods work. We have got a key focus on community enterprises. We'll explain more what that is, as my colleague Evie will do. So as I mentioned, we work through other entities, and just want to draw your attention to what we call drivers of change. So our partner on this webinar, Planeterra, is what we call a driver of change. So they're actually working in the field, and we partner and support them so that because we have mutually beneficial goals. And at the bottom of this table is usually the people who receive the benefits of our work in the office, and that's many of you, micro retailers, artisans, rural entrepreneurs, agents, smallholder farmers, whomever that may be. You are the reason why we design these programs and partner with other organizations like Planeterra. So for us, community tourism is all about supporting those many communities in Zambia or across Zambia who are dependent on the landscapes for their livelihoods. And it's in a sustainable approach. And the key thing is to really make sure that the resources or the economic value that's unlocked stays in those communities. And as we're coming back from COVID-19, we hope to see community tourism being the preferred approach to tourism, which is more than integrated in the landscapes and the communities where the, tourism is based, where the tourists are coming to. So that's my 2 seconds of what Prospero does and why we're having this webinar session. And at some point, I think Evie and I we'll talk more about how you could potentially partner with us. But as I end there, not wanting to take too much of the main event's time, I'd like to introduce my colleague, partner in this space, Evie Ndlovu from Planeterra. Welcome, Evie. I hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Lukumbi, and hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and chat with you today, to chat a little bit more about the work that Planeterra is doing all across the world and the areas that we have for potential partnerships. So I do have a short presentation that I'm going to share with you guys today. And I'm looking forward to getting some questions from you guys afterwards, so we can sort of, you know, continue the conversation. So I'm just going to present this now. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to share like a little bit about how to scale up community tourism in Zambia, as we have done all across the world, as you'll see in a little bit. So just a bit about myself. My name is Evie Ndlovu. I'm originally from Zimbabwe, Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, but I'm currently living in Zambia. I am the programs manager for Planeterra in the Middle East, Africa, and Europe as well. I've been with Planeterra for about 4 years now. And it's been a ride. Sorry, my dog decided to join us today. So just a little bit about Planeterra. So Planeterra, we are a Canadian nonprofit that was founded in 2003 by Bruce Puntip. So you might know him as the founder of the world's largest small adventure travel company, which is G Adventures, or also the author of the book called Loop Tale. So we do have over 13 years in community tourism, enterprise development, and we're so proud that we have 100% success rate. So we are an impact-driven organization, and our mission is to uplift lives through tourism. That is our core mission. So we have a staff of about 9 at the moment, and we're stretched out across 6 countries on all continents. And we have a combined experience of over 120 years. So we recently came off the success of what we were calling Project 100, which was integrating 100 community tourism enterprises into our travel partner G Adventures' itineraries. So that's just a little bit about who we are. And pre-COVID, we looked a little bit different than we look now. So pre-COVID, we had worked with 100 community tourism enterprises in 56 countries. So we had successfully included 100 communities into itineraries. We had 100% success rate. Our partnerships are still in operation up to date. Many are still waiting for COVID to kind of go away and for travel to come back, but they're all still operational. And between 2015 and 2019, through our work, $10 million was spent within communities. So this is $10 million that is coming directly from the travelers into the hands of communities, excluding our work through our grants and our training and our resource provision. And again, between 2015 and 2019, we were so excited that we had managed to facilitate over 700,000 travelers visiting communities who are our partners. And then this is just a little bit about our 2030 goals. As you know, COVID has changed everything and we don't look the way we looked before. Before 2030, we are hoping that at least 50 million travelers are experiencing community tourism. And we want to see $1 billion worth of income actually reaching the hands of local communities. And then also we want to see over 3.5 million lives changed through tourism. And when we talk about community tourism, we talk exclusively about travel experiences that are owned, that are led, and that are run by communities. So this can be by nonprofits who are on the ground. This can be cooperatives that are locally owned, and these may also be social enterprises. And when we talk about community tourism, we want to see at its best a system that breaks down the barriers that, you know, divide the normal or like the communities that do not have access to the mainstream tourism industry. So we want to see, you know, barriers being broken down to underserved communities in meaningful and life-changing ways. So when we talk about community tourism, usually we will talk about 5 different types of experiences or services. So we will usually work exclusively with handicrafts and artisanal services, just like our partner in Peru, the Kakakoya Women's Cooperative, who are a weaving cooperative, or these can also be in form of experiences. So experiences can be walks, can be hikes, they can be guided tours like our partner City Walk in New Delhi, in India, who are youth who were previously homeless but are now currently running city walks and guided tours around the city where they grew up. And we also work with accommodation, much like our partner, the Karekare Sand Lodge in Khansi in Botswana, and also meal services. So these may be like our partner in Zimbabwe, our Lusumpuko Women's Lunch, and also transportation. So a key part of our model is to make sure that we focus mainly on these 5 parts of travel, which are very exclusive and in demand within the travel industry. And over the last year or so, as things changed and we couldn't be, you know, outside as much anymore and helping communities and linking them to the tourism industry, we have recently launched what we call our Global Community Tourism Network. So our network is built exclusively on 3 pillars, which is our learning and training, our online community, as well as marketing and promotion. So what we're trying to see here is we're trying to bridge the gap between communities and the tourism industry. So we do provide an online site where you can get all the learning resources that you might need. We provide online training sessions and also experts from the field coming through. And also a very key part of what we have done and continue to do is the marketing and promotion. So we work very hard to make sure that communities are actually promoted the right way and linked to key players in the travel industry, thus bringing income into them. So as of this week, our community is growing. As you may remember, I started saying we had 100 communities at the end of 2019, and we have grown significantly to over 270 communities in 70 countries. So we're currently so proud of this number, and our numbers continue to grow as we continue to work with communities and our reach continues to expand. Yeah, so I thought it would be very important as well, like while I'm chatting to you guys, to bring a little bit more of context on the work that we've done a little bit more closer to home. So I've just got a few examples of the work that we've actually done in East and Southern Africa. And that's me with my colleague. This was the last trip that we went to last year, right before, you know, travel stopped. And wow, this was in Khansi, Botswana. So this is our partner, the Karekare Sand Lodge that I showed you earlier. Yeah, so as we continue, so these are just a few examples that I've prepared for you guys to give you a little bit more of context of the type of work we do. So this is Lusumpuko Women's Cooperative. It's a lunch that we helped facilitate and integrate into the tourism industry. So they were previously a chicken rearing cooperative in Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, that through our training and also our grant projects to help them develop a kitchen and also to connect them to the market through our partner J Adventures, are now conducting a lunch service in Victoria Falls. It's not something that is very fancy or difficult. It's just making the usual food that they would prepare at home. So like nshima, vegetables, what have you, all the way, the stuff that they're used to making at home. And then through our training and our resources, help them discover that dream and expand it for them to actually provide this service, which is a key part of the travel industry, as travelers need to eat. So that's where the meal part of things comes in. And then we also have Moshi Mama's Cooperative in Tanzania. So this is an experience, so which is a bead making experience that is run by women in Moshi, who previously, like a lot of them are the wives of porters who actually go up Mount Kilimanjaro, but did not have any access to the workforce or actual access to income through tourism. And through our partnerships and our grant, as well as connection to the market, they're currently running a demonstration or an afternoon session where travelers come and they teach them the art of bead making as well as jewelry making in the traditional ways of Moshi. And then this is much closer to home. So this is Tribal Textiles in Mpuwe in Zambia, who is one of our, our favorite partners. We partnered with them to help them. They're running an artisanry and also a workshop. And through our partnerships in the travel industry, we connected them to the travel industry by helping them create a workshop experience. So instead of just travelers coming through and just buying the artisans, they now get a chance to experience the whole workshop, meet the artisans, hear the stories behind them. And one of the key parts that also, through our work there was to involve a lunch experience there, where travelers, after having a workshop, like a tour of the workshop, meeting the artisans, can also have a lunch. And then this is another form of, experience, which is much like more on the conservation side. So this is Soazara in Ranohira, Madagascar, our partnership that is working to reduce deforestation through creating a tree planting experience for travelers. So this is a paid tree planting experience where travelers come through, learn about Ranohira, the forests, the lemurs, and everything else. And then after that, can have a lunch. As you can see there, they're having a lunch and an experience to meet the community of Ranohira. And then just in perspective, when we're talking about community tourism, so when we talk about community tourism and actually scaling it up, what we want to see and the benefits that can come from scaling up community tourism is that within communities, there's a direct access to the market. So we want communities, be it rural villages or communities within towns, to actually have access to the tourists. We want income that can actually help the communities to improve their lives and their communities. And we also want to see a lasting impact within communities. So we want money to come into the communities and stay within the communities. And also we want a chance for indigenous and rural communities to share their stories authentically. There's nothing much like the current state of tourism where stories of indigenous people or indigenous communities are being told through the mouth of other people. So what we want to see is, the preservation of culture and the preservation of heritage while sharing stories through the mouth of those who are actually experiencing those lives. And then for travelers and travel companies, we want to see the perspective is using travel to positively impact communities. So this is a good chance for travel companies to provide authentic experiences and also to minimize the leakage in the travel industry in terms of finances. So when money goes directly from the traveler to the community, there is no money that is lost in between. And then also we want travelers to be able to see their money directly benefiting communities. And then, you may ask, how can you support Planeterra? How can you partner with Planeterra? So we do have quite a number of opportunities, and the first being partnering with us. So we do have an amazing partnership with Prospero, who have given us the opportunity to kind of chat to you guys and share a little bit more about us and open up our platform to, whoever feels like they might need access to our platform. So that's one way that you can support us. Another way that you can support us is to recommend community tourism enterprises within your network or your community. So if in your community, maybe an artisans group or women's cooperative that you think would greatly benefit from the learning resources that we have, from the peer-to-peer learning that we provide, as well as the market connection to the tourism industry, that is another way that you can support it. And if you are in the corporate space, you can become part of our corporate travel partner, which means that we do work with travel partners to help develop product for them and to integrate community tourism enterprises within their itineraries. And then the other way that you can help us is through referring us to community tourism enterprises. So be it you're traveling or you're just at home in your city and you find or you see someone or a community tourism experience that you think might benefit from Planeterra's work, feel free to refer them to us, and we're always happy to help. Yeah, and thank you so much. That's just a little bit about Planeterra. If you've got any other questions or you'd like to reach out to us to chat about either way or any way to partner with us or to support us, feel free to reach us on our social media. So we are on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're on TikTok, and we're also on YouTube at Planeterra Cares. And then you can also check out our website, which is planeterra.org. And you can email us about any questions you have at info@planeterra.org. And also, if you'd like to chat to me directly, or you have any opportunities or looking for opportunities within Planeterra, feel free to reach out to me directly at indlovu@planeterra.org. So thank you so much. I'm going to give back the host button to Likumbi. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting some more questions if you guys have any.
Awesome. Thanks, Evie. Thanks for that presentation. And I know some people have joined while it was going. So there's now an opportunity for you to maybe ask a few questions. We could do it in two ways. Actually, it might be much easier for you to put your questions in the chat. But if you're quick to the button, I could take a live question. You're able to raise your hand or mute yourself. I can take a live question for Evie. I have a question already if nobody else is going to jump. Oh, Gavin, you're quick to the quick to the button. Go ahead.
Hey guys. Hope you can see me. So this is Gavin. Dialing in from Flag of Zambia. We're actually pretty 1 year old in the market. So what we do is that we offer payment gateways for merchants, and so we would like to look at possible partnerships in the tourism space and just how could see. So I don't know who to contact for this from both Prospero and Planeterra.
Actually, Gavin, it's interesting that I've already actually recommended Flutterwave to many of our partners who are doing e-commerce sites. As one of the challenges they had when their sales went offline was trying to gather these online sales. So definitely feel free to reach out to either. Well, for me, I'll drop my email in the chat. I'm willing to chat more, and it's interesting. Yeah, Evie, did you have a comment there?
Yeah, so I'd also be happy to kind of chat to you a little bit to hear more about your work and to see if there's any potential there to kind of work with our partners. If you do provide like a payment merchant system, that's something as well that I'd love to chat with you about, and I will add my email address in the chat box as well.
Thank you very much. Good work you're doing out there. Hopefully we can also contribute to that. Thanks.
Great. Aubrey, did you have a question? Oh, so he's putting his hand down. Well, I had a quick question actually. Evie, you mentioned a global learning hub, and I wondered, what are the criteria for anybody in this call to access that global learning, those resources to the hub?
Yeah, so the only criteria that we do have at the moment is that they have to be either currently a practicing community tourism experience or looking forward to creating community tourism enterprises or experiences. So we are open for groups of any kind who are willing to diversify to tourism or who are currently within the tourism industry. So like I mentioned, one of our partners was previously a women's chicken rearing cooperative who had the hopes or had the wish to actually become like a travel within the travel industry, and through our resources managed to sort of diversify and move from that one sector and actually jump into another sector. So we are very open for partnerships and any at any point, as long as we see that there is a mutual context there.
And just to be clear, there's no cost to join the Learning Lab, right?
No cost. So everything is absolutely free. So it's all absolutely free. All you just need is to make sure you do have an active internet connection. You're able to access it as it's online, and also that you either speak English or Spanish. So we are currently working to translate to Swahili and French, but that will be within the year 2022.
Okay. Are there any other questions that others may have, or you can drop them in the chat if you'd like, and I can read them out. That's fine. Nope. So on that, maybe I'd like to have another question, because as Prospero does work, we do support tourism enterprises all across the spectrum. So from artisans, there's a few tour operators here. I saw Mawamila and Nick on the call, tour operators that we're familiar with. But how does an enterprise or somebody wanting to go to that space, how do you support them to create the identify the idea, whether they want to be use accommodation as an avenue, whether they want to use food experiences? How do you help them identify where to go?
Yeah, so thank you. That's a really great question. So we do work with potential partners or with communities directly to kind of help them sort of think of an idea and develop that idea. So we will never impose an idea on you to say, oh, why don't you do this instead? So usually our first question will be, what are you good at? What would you like to do? Women, it will usually be cooking or hosting guests, or if they can drive, or to provide a transport service. And what we will do is we will usually provide the training, so the access to the training for them to actually create the itineraries, to create the services, to make the market ready, and also just wherever there is need for like financial support, like a grant for them to be able to buy their capital, or their starter pack is what we call it, be it pots, be it a stove. If it needs be, once or twice we have supported with actual vehicles. So we do help the partner realize what they want to do, and we do whatever's best in our powers to actually help them develop that idea into reality.
Great. I mean, that's the full spectrum of support, actually, in terms of people getting up and running.
Yeah.
I'll keep on asking questions, guys, unless you put your hands up. But once they're helped, is there a time frame before they start receiving guests? Do they have to be wait a year, or is there any sort of time lag, or as soon as they're ready, they can start receiving guests, hosts from you? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think now because of COVID, things look a little bit different. So I wouldn't speak about now because we haven't. I think that the most recent that we integrated was only this week, and they will be starting to receive travelers like in a couple of weeks. So there is usually, depending on the training and the preparation that comes, it might take a couple of months. For a bigger project, it might take 6 to 1 year. For smaller projects, it might take like as much as a couple of weeks for them to actually be identified, for us to work with them and to get them into the industry.
Great. So it's really dependent on how complex the project might be for them to start receiving that benefit of having guests using their experience or their accommodation or their food services.
Exactly. Yeah, so just like our partner in Botswana, the Karakare San Lodge, so they are the indigenous San, a community of the indigenous San. They had a building, so they had the building, they had the campsite, but they didn't have an ablution block, and their rooms, their hotel rooms were a little bit not up to travel standards. So that took about 6 to 8 months for us to kind of get the investment rights to build the ablution block, to set up the rooms again, the roofs, the geysers, the showers, and so forth. So it depends also on the cost and the scale of the project in total. But if it's something as like a lunch meal, and we identify a travel partner that says, oh, we've got partners that are traveling through Livingston on this day, they would like a lunch in this itinerary. So every week we would need a lunch on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesday. That's a very short turnaround. That could take maybe 4 to 8 weeks.
Great. So really practical stuff there of how people could get involved.
Yeah.
Would there be any particular questions from our audience? And thanks everybody for logging in and for being part of this info session. Would there be any particular questions people would like to ask Evie or myself at this point? Or comments? Also, and please feel free to drop them in the chat. I know that sometimes tech is not our friend with audio. Not at this point. Or I might start picking on people. No, I won't do that. so the key question would be though, after all this information, and I have a great idea and I want to get started. Do you have any, how do I just write you an email? What happens? Is there a call? Do you have a window where you can accepting ideas? How does that work?
Yeah, so you can just reach out to me on my email address. I've been trying to add my email address to the chat box, but for some reason, I don't know what's going on.
I'll add
yeah,
it.
But you can just reach out to me on email. I'm always happy to hop on a call to kind of discuss things through and to get your idea. If this is a new idea or it's a first phase sort of idea, I'm always happy to kind of hop on a call. And if it's like for more well-established enterprises or experiences that are community owned, it's also pretty much the same. You just have a chat with you, and then I get you into the Global Community Tourism Network. There's a whole like learning journey that you go through. And then once we go through that, we kind of identify if we have partners who are traveling in your area, what their criteria is, and if you fit to be part of their itinerary.
Great. I think that's really easy access to, you know, the support. Camilla, did you have a question, or was that just I missed it? Well, I have dropped Evie's email in the chat. You can see it there, and mine as well. I hope that this is something. I mean, as Prospero, we're quite excited to have a partnership with Planeterra, who's got such a great international footprint, and really 100% success rate. Welcome, Camilla. I know Zesco issues. I can see it in the chat. Oh, you're with Ntanda. Did you have a question, or please feel free if you had a question to drop it in the chat. But for us at Prospero, and like I said, I know there's many familiar names here. We really would like to see an opportunity where our partners or those who we work with have access to international networks like and resources like those provided by Planeterra, so that even if they do receive or don't receive a grant with us, they can expand their businesses. And we can see ultimately what we'd like to see is that more of that tourism revenue stays in local communities as people start coming back from COVID. We had discussed very generally as we're joining this about the people in countries that are now more have higher vaccination rates, really looking for experiences and destinations like what we have to offer here in Zambia. So there is a really high potential that if you do come up with a community tourism offering, that you can tap into that wave of returning tourists. I think that at that point we've actually shared what we would like to share today. It's a short and sweet intervention on your sunny Thursday afternoon, at least sunny here in Lusaka. If there are not any other questions, please feel free to reach out to myself and Evie to learn more or see how you can get involved. If you have any ideas you'd like to bounce off us, and we'd be happy to help you and facilitate. Evie, any last words from you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thanks everybody for taking your time to listen to me. And as always, we are always, open to partnerships, and I feel like Zambia has a lot to offer. There's so many off the beaten paths experiences that can be offered. There's so much culture there, and we at Planeterra, we believe that authentic stories must be told by the locals and by the people who actually hail from them and live from them. So if ever you see any opportunity for partnership, Planeterra is always open and ready. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Zikom Kwambili. Have a great day. Bye.